And I know we're not the only people who, have done this in our past. Like majority of college students and high school students deal with the same thing. But I think the reason is because even when we procrastinate and we do the assignment like an hour before, majority of times it works.
Yeah.
There's no like, there's no negative. Like sometimes there is, this is like, but majority of time for me at least, if I do it like an hour before, like I'm getting a decent grade. So then why uh, why do we not do things we're supposed to on like time or whatever? Like why? And personally speaking, the whole procrastination thing. Like why is that a thing? Like I'll know that I need to do something. Not so much this year because I've been working on it, but like in the past I've really been like, okay, I have to let's take an assignment. I have to do an assignment. It's due in 2 weeks' time. I could start now and be done well before the deadline. But why do I feel the innate urge to like either be on my phone or clean the house or scrub the windows all before I start writing the assignment an hour before it's due?
And no,
Like,
I know what you mean. I think it might be like because I do the same thing,
yeah.
and I think it might be like the like when you look at the whole project like as a whole, it just seems so like scary, and it just seems like such
Mm-hmm.
a big deal to have to like you see all this work that you have to do, and you're looking at it as like just one giant like work session,
Yeah.
I guess. And then I actually just saw a video recently that said like the trick is to just say you're going to work on something for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you get that 5 minutes done, and you're feeling good, like you're on a roll, and then you just keep going. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it's like when you just see like just the lump sum, like it gets scary.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, um, that's such a really good trick. Like it gets you in the flow state. And I think we watched like the same video. I'm not sure. Um, for me, that's like I'll admit it. Like procrastination is pretty like I've kind of learned to deal with it, but yeah, like I couldn't have said like Matt couldn't have said it better. Like I think it is like we tend to focus on the end task so much that it creates some sort of like lack of motivation or like just like anxiety or not even anxiety, but like just like overall stress because you're thinking about the process more than the actual end result, which just gets you like kind of frustrated in your mind. Um, and one thing that like I do, I declare myself as a professional procrastinator. I love to procrastinate. So like what I try to do when I have like a lot of tasks is I think about the end goal, and I write it down and I just stick it on the wall, and or like I usually just write it on my whiteboard. Um, it just allows me to see like you know what when they say when you feel like quitting, think about why you started. It just allows me to see like yo, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this report? Is to get a better grade in this class. Why does that matter? I spent a lot of money on this class. Why does that matter? Money is important, and it just like continues. And at one point, it just like okay, maybe I actually need to get started on this.
See, they do that, but and then like it would be great. I think, and I know we're not the only people who have done this in our past. Like majority of college students and high school students deal with the same thing. But I think the reason is because even when we procrastinate and we do the assignment like an hour before, majority of times it works.
Yeah.
There's no like, there's no negative. Like sometimes there is, that this is like, but majority of time for me at least, if I do it like an hour before, like I'm getting a decent grade. So then the next time I'm like, I it worked before. So like, but even though I know that like 1 hour or like that thing is the worst time ever, or however that day or whatever is the worst time ever, but no,
I-
there's no consequence. There's no like, hey, maybe next time I shouldn't start this, you know?
This happens to me in writing courses all the time, where I leave it till like the last minute and I'll get a 97 on an essay. And then when I actually try and plan it out in 3 weeks in advance and get it done, get it reviewed, I'll get like an 85. And I'm like, was it even worth it? Like, like it's just, I don't know, man. I think it, because when, like, here's what I think too, you know, how, like, how often, like, when you're in a rush, you tend to cut the junk information out. Like you're more about like, hey, let me just get the facts, put it onto a piece of paper. If you're writing a paper, or even like any task, like you're focused for that straight 1 hour, and that commute. And if you do that over a period of time, I guess that will pile up and eventually lead to a bigger time stand. But I think it's the focus that you get. Like people, you get easily distracted if you're doing the task. For me, like if it's studying for an exam, or like a midterm or something, I'll try to plan it out 3 weeks in advance and slowly like go over each unit. But then if it's like a day after, like or like 2 days before, I'll be like, oh man, I have 48 hours. Boom, pile the whole book into my brain. Like it just cut out all the junk information and focus on the key concepts. And then I don't know, man. I think it's about the time crunch, that like adrenaline rush people.
Yeah, I
people
actually
chase.
feel that too, because I find sometimes if I start something too early, I'll just be like working on it too slow. And it just helps if I have like a stress, like more stress, and then I get just absolutely going. So yeah, I don't know. It's good and it's bad.
Like I've had nights where I've like I think like the latest I've stayed up studying was like 2 a.m. And I was just sitting there with my lamp on. I'm like ripping my hairs out. I'm like, yo, why did I leave this till last minute? But then it turns out good, and I'm like,
That's the thing, right?
like, is this meant to be? Like, should I do this more often?
I think in the long term the answer is no.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we all know that though. We all know the answer is no. We should do it earlier. But again, for some reason, I think I
think that like people are attracted to what they can't get. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like they're attracted to that like edgy side of things, like what if moments, like
makes you like riled up. It gets you excited.
yeah. Like just like you living on the wild edge of life, you know?
Yeah, it's always fun. I think one thing that I've, especially because the reason why I'm bringing this up, because you know, me and Matt, we have a big test, but we're not gonna do it. But like the goal is so far away, right? Like it's 3-4 months away. So to be able to like now be like, yo, I actually got to put time to it. But one thing that I've like to provide a little value, the one thing that I've been doing is like realizing when I'm doing something that I know I shouldn't, like, you know, cleaning the windows, like those. I mean, I guess those can be done. I legit clean the windows.
You shouldn't be cleaning the windows.
Like I think about like, is this a short-term thing or a long-term thing? Like in the short term, I'm gonna feel great that my windows look clean. But in the long term, it's gonna hurt me when I'm cramming a whole bunch of material together. Versus if I were to sit down and study right now, in the short term, it's gonna be horrible. Like I don't want to. I'd rather clean the windows. It's just an example. You can do whatever you want. But in the long term, me putting my mind to the task at hand is gonna be helpful. So that's what I've been doing, and then I think it's been pretty well working so far.